The Straw has their reactions. It's hilarious. Luffy's like, yo, how is this nigga falling over? They've waited 22 years and he bit the bullet? Like, come on, dog. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was not expecting this chapter to drop when it did. I was in my bed, like, getting ready to take a nap, and then I got a notification that the chapter is out. So I got out the bed, put on a hoodie real quick. I was like, all right, bet, let me do this review. But this is chapter 1133, and it starts off with a little bit of the Ohara flashback. Obviously, Oda had to go a little bit more in depth and go ahead and reinforce everything that happened during the flashback and seeing Robin running away. We saw it already during Enies Lobby, but because of what happened towards the end of the chapter, Oda made it clear that he wanted, just seeing the tragedy and everything that Robin went through, wanted it to be fresh in our minds. I do like what Oda did with Spandine here and how he had him play it up a little bit more, obviously playing into the fact that they're painting Nico Robin as the sole person responsible for the Ohara incident, because, well, if they're going to blame it on a little kid, then they have to paint her in the most negative way possible, and that's the only way that they can allow her to be the devil child. Just seeing how much of the world government and just seeing the news like spread, how much of that has impact and influence around the world, because Nico Robin is an 8-year-old kid, and I know that she has a devil fruit, but everybody knows about devil fruit powers. Her being such a young kid, always on the run, just seeing how nastily these people are treating her, talking about they can't even sleep in peace with her around, and just the fact that Saul, constantly Nico Robin, she's trying to remind herself about what Saul said regarding, hey, just, always smile, always laugh it off, because eventually you need to live and you'll eventually meet friends that will want to be with you. Even though you have a devil fruit, even though that the world government's after you, your friends will always be there for you. Nico Robin definitely has one of the saddest backstories in all of One Piece. Definitely think it's probably in my top 3, up there with Law and Sanji's. We cut back to the present, and I have to say, for Elbaf 2, it's not as isolated as Wano, but they mentioned that Elbaf doesn't necessarily know about the world like that. Their technology is pretty amazing because they have a ship that allows them to travel on clouds. It's called the Savaler, or known as the Mist ship. It's a ship that moves using the buoyancy of the island clouds. It's pretty cool. We've seen ships able to go in the oceans whenever they're coated, and now we get to see ships fly. It's also really cool how Haruden, he finally gets to meet up with the Straw Hats, more specifically Luffy, talking about how, hey, I want you guys to meet my crew. These are people who serve as your underlings. And Luffy's like, hey man, I done told you this like 50 million times. I'm not your big boss. But we know how much Haruden respects him. Also, gotta show some love to Road. I feel bad for my boy. I know he's a weirdo. I know he deserves it, but they got him up on the cross like he's about to be executed. It's pretty funny. I talked a little bit earlier about how Elbaf is not as isolated as Wano, but they're still not necessarily as connected to the world, and this is reinforced whenever Haruden talks about how the people of the world, they don't really know about the world, but they were excited when they heard that Big Mom was defeated. And this is because we know everything that happened with her at Elbaf when, they were trying to worship the sun god by fasting, and she couldn't deal with it, started eating everybody, destroying everything. Even Jer said that was her friend. You already know Luffy, Usopp, they're ready for a good time, ready to eat. However, Robin, she wants to pay Saul a visit first, and I 100% get that. Of course, she wants to see her friend after 22 years, so they're going to pause on the celebration and they're going to see Saul and Luffy. At first, Robin was like, she could go on her own, but Luffy's like, hey, I'm the captain, right? I should pay my respect to someone that was nice to my friend. This is where they're at the shore known as the Warrior Spring, and on top of that is the Owl Library. You see Robin, she's ready, preparing himself for this reunion. Luffy, he wants to go, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna go in first. But Nami, she's like, Luffy, this ain't your time. Like, stay back. Robin, she'll handle this, and when she's ready for us to meet Saul, she'll go ahead and bring us. Just such a funny interaction. Elbaf has killed it with the comedy so far. But if you guys enjoyed regular One Piece content, let me know by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. I pump out different content almost each and every day. Remember about 2 or so chapters ago, somebody was panicking saying that Saul, he was bent over and he wasn't moving. The Straw has their reactions. It's hilarious. Luffy's like, yo, yo, how is this nigga falling over? They waited 22 years and he bit the bullet. Like, come on, dog. And I'm not worried. I wasn't worried back then, and I'm still not worried because, of course, Saul, he was faking it because Robin, she's like, I'll go see him, ain't nothing wrong with him. And when she saw him, it was just such a touching reunion. Obviously Saul, he was panicking after not seeing her for 22 years. He didn't know exactly how he was supposed to appear before her. He tried to do this, but of course, since it's been such a long time, she's not a little kid anymore. We see Saul, he has a scar on one of his eyes, as well as he mentions how Nico Robin is so beautiful, how she looks just like Nico Olivia. They talk about the broadcast and how Vegapunk, he was able to tell the truth about the Ahara scholars and how their voices was heard, because everybody knows that the research that they did has kind of come to light and that their research wasn't in vain. Now, I don't know how to necessarily feel about this, but it kind of makes sense at the same time. We find out how Saul was able to survive. Apparently, when he came to, he was drowning, and the reason why he was able to break free of the ice is because of the fire of the island. It melted the ice. As I mentioned, this makes plenty of sense because ice, what happens whenever you leave it out in the sun? It melts. So obviously, if you leave it next to fire, it's definitely going to melt as well. I know people are going to talk about, oh, it's a devil fruit, it's Aokiji, he should be strong, but you can't really beat science, now can you? I'm not gonna lie, whenever this part of it is gonna be animated with the OSTs and like just how emotional they're gonna make it, it's gonna be so beautiful because of how much Saul made a point to say, Robin, you have to live, you have to survive no matter what. And at first it was really lighthearted. Honestly, I would have came on here and said that the reunion was a little bit underwhelming with how casual they were talking, but then Oda, he shifted gears. Robin just bawling out, like crying. Saul, he's crying too, just how much they missed each other. And it was a trickle down effect because you have the Straw Hats here crying as well. Every last one, well, okay, not every last one of them, but most of them. There's Frankie, Sanji, Nami, Chopper, Usopp, all of them are bawling their eyes out as well. You see Zoro, Jinbei, and Luffy, they ain't crying, but at the same time, they're not really emotional people like that. Just a really beautiful panel, really beautiful and emotional moment. Honestly, like I said, I'll have to wait for the anime because I think the music will make it hit a lot more, but this is definitely, and just the voice acting as well, like hearing how choked up they're going to be, probably a top emotional moment in the series. Some people might be upset with Saul being alive. I get it, but at the same time, with how much bullshit Robin went through as a kid, how much she was on the run, how much she had to sacrifice, how many people she lost, having at least one person come back to life, I think that's fine. And the fact that it was Saul, that's fine as well. I will say, not necessarily saying I was disappointed in this, but I was expecting the Straw Hats to at least introduce themselves or, you know, just interact with Saul a little bit. But at the same time, I think Oda wants to separate that from this emotional moment. I can't wait to see it because the Straw Hats, they all have unique personalities and they're all different. So I want to see how Saul is going to react to how each of them are, and maybe he came to some conclusion based off of their bounty, and you know, they're going to have a complete 180 from what he assumed. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen in terms of chapters. I think we're supposed to officially get one more chapter before the end of the year, and then typically with the scans, they release way earlier than what they should. So technically a chapter that releases for, well, the first one for 2025 technically releases before then, at the end of 2024. Usually it's like the 30th or the 29th, something like that. So I think we're officially technically supposed to be receiving one more chapter for the year. But yeah, that's chapter 1133. Not really a lot in terms of action, but just if you like Nico Robin, you definitely like this chapter, and I'm a fan of her, so I thought this chapter was really good. But let me know how you guys feel about this chapter in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It's on the screen and in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.